So, you've decided to take the family on a road trip to go visit Grandma. Sounds like a great time, right? Right. Most travel days don't fail because of a mechanical breakdown. They fail because the humans, and the animals, hit a wall. At some point in the day, if you haven't planned out your journey, you aren't choosing a vacation, you're planning to be starving, cranky, and minutes away from eating the fermented taint of a dead possum. We've all heard the quote, "No plan survives first contact with the enemy." Well, on a road trip, the enemy is a closed rest area, food deserts, or a four-dog circus that decides it's done being in the truck. Febreze to the rescue, hopefully. I've done countless road trips. Some had a plan, and some did not. The differences in the experiences were dramatic. So, I decided to provide you with some of the things I do prior to departure that not only helps you head off problems, but can even make the trip enjoyable. This is the best advice a human could ever pass along to another human. This is in the pantheon of good advice, just below never trust a fart and never ignore a boner. There will never be a better example of trip planning than this. Spock and Data would kneel before this advice. These days, winging it is basically sending Mayhem a Google Calendar invite. So, you've decided to take my advice and plan, or at the very least, you know it's a good idea to try to plan. But what is the first step? Planning between ham and turkey? No. The first step is not actually planning. It's to consider your two key elements you'll need to plan around, your circus and the route, the circus. This is the collection of species that you will be traveling with. This could be just you, or it could be you, your significant other, your kids, two dogs, and a badger. Each troop of monkeys requires different considerations. The route. Where is your mob of kangaroos going? Is it to Grandma's house 3 hours away, or are you moving your collection 3 states over? And I mean the big western states, not the fun-sized statelets y'all have in the east. To be fair, this step isn't really planning. It's just taking stock of the pieces. Assuming you know the tolerances and nuances of your gaggle, it's time to start the route planning. Here is just a quick list of some of the things your skulk might want to consider. 1. The destination and route. How far away and how are you going to get there? 2. Navigation. Are you sure you'll always have a signal? 3. Go-go juice. This is fuel or electricity for EVs. You want to make sure you're not pulling in on fumes or sparks, or worse. 4. Food and drinks. Are you bringing your own, or are you going to rely on the mixed sadness off I-40 outside Amarillo? 5. Potty stops. This is pretty self-explanatory. These tend to plan themselves. 6. Arrival logistics. Do you have to check in before or after a certain time? Is there any setup involved? Arrival is the final phase of the mission. 7. Driving plan. Who's driving and how long do you want to drive? This is a good time to consider the rule of threes. That means you should plan to drive only 300 miles, stop every 3 hours, and try to arrive by 3 p.m. While that may not apply to all scenarios, it's just something to consider. That sounds like a pretty daunting list, huh? Well, if you're not using AI to help plan, then you're making things hard on yourself. I've developed a pretty decent prompt for you to use to get started on this phase of the planning. I won't get too into it here, but I've provided a link to my website in the description where you can copy this prompt. Just paste it into your favorite AI model and then tweak it as you go. And, pro tip, verify every stop with Google Maps satellite imagery. This will help you avoid trying to pull a 45-foot fifth wheel into a small fuel station. Okay, now that you know what the route holds, let's address the navigation for a moment. Don't assume that you'll always have signal. Yes, most of the time we can hear you now, but not always. I suggest having your route instructions available offline. For those of you born after 2005, you probably look at a paper atlas like it's a relic from the Bronze Age or was one of the Dead Sea Scrolls. You've never lived in a world where the blue dot didn't just tell you exactly where you were. But for the rest of us, we remember the eras of the road. The Atlas era, pre-1996. We had a Rand McNally map book under the passenger seat. If you missed an exit in a construction zone, you didn't hear a polite voice say, "recalculating." You heard your spouse sigh as you drive around like Magellan trying to figure out where you should go, never stopping to ask for directions. Then came the MapQuest era, 1996 to 2005. This was the desktop planning age. You'd spend Sunday night printing out 12 pages of turn-by-turn directions. If you dropped a page while driving 70 miles per hour, you started humming Three Blind Mice while you still wouldn't stop to ask for directions. At least us men wouldn't. But then May 1st, 2000 happened. This is the day the navigation world changed. Before this, the government intentionally made civilian GPS fuzzy. You could be off by the length of a football field. Overnight, that fuzzy signal became accurate to within 10 feet. That was the birth of the modern road trip. Before that, there was a thing called death by GPS. Look it up. Today, we're in the smartphone era. Suddenly, the GPS wasn't a $500 box on your dash, it was in your pocket. We became addicted to the blue dot. But here's the thing. The blue dot is a liar the second you lose signal. That screen goes blank, and suddenly you're right back in 1994, but without the paper map to save you. That is why we plan. What's my point? Make sure you have your route plan available offline. Now, you can finally start to formulate a stop plan. You know you're going to have to stop somewhere along the way. Let's use strategery here. Assume that every stop has more than one purpose. And, depending on the purpose of the stop, you'll need some stuff. I outline kits of stuff that you may need for your particular stop. I call them Tactical Loadout Packs. Tactical Loadout Packs. Because that sounds way more fun than collections of crap you might want to pull out when Timmy needs to pee. The primary purpose of these packs is to address the inevitable hunger you'll experience while on the road. Assuming you're not going to plan on the Chevron roller hot dog of questionable heritage or gas station sushi, you should plan to bring your chow with you. Nobody wants you to turn into Betty White because you forgot a Snickers. The first loadout pack is the Instant Kit. This is the cooler and/or bag that you keep in the vehicle so you can grab beverages and non-mess-inducing snacks. Well, as non-mess-inducing as a badger toddler can be. You should also include napkins and even bibs. Bibs are way cooler than you think, especially if you get them with superhero emblems on them. That way, you can use them as a cape for when you're cruising the aisles of Buc-ee's for Corn Nuts and Mountain Dew. The second pack is the Spread. This is the chow you plan on having during a true rest stop. This is the cooler and bin of the stuff you plan to put out for the sounder of swine you're hauling. The pro tip to packing the Spread is to make sure everything survives the haul. Don't pre-make sandwiches, or at least don't put the veggies in the sandwiches. Veggies and condiments make bread mushy. Don't use loose ice because you'll end up with a cold, soggy bread, hummus, and mustard gazpacho. Yummy! Pack assuming that your little cooler is going to endure a constant earthquake until you get to it. The third loadout pack is the hardware kit. This is the stuff that doesn't need refrigeration or instant access, but can be a deal breaker between feeding yourself or feeding the ants. Things like serving utensils, serviceware, and paper stuff like napkins and paper towels and hand sanitizer. Chairs and tables, if you're not stopping at a public rest area, and a tablecloth if you are. Think of the fluids and solids that got on that table before you arrived. For smaller pods, there are tire-mounted tables, and for cold days, a 12-volt lunchbox heater is a power move.
Oh, and make sure you don't forget the cleanup stuff.
This is everything you need to clean your faces, hands, utensils, and your personal tables and chairs. Clean it before you put your stuff away so it doesn't harden and become difficult to clean later. Next, plan to deal with your garbage, because you will create garbage. If the place you stop doesn't have garbage cans, then you'll need to figure out how to carry it to your next stop without smelling out the car. Zero prep deployment is the whole game. All cutting, slicing, and dicing happens in your kitchen the night before. Consider the 10-minute goal. From park to first bite should be under 10 minutes. Even that's an eternity for your hungry crotch goblins. This should be an assembly line. Lay out the pre-prepped containers, assemble, and eat. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of gear and data to track. That link I keep mentioning has a complete hardware kit checklist. You won't necessarily need all of it, but the list will remind you of things you may not have considered. It is entirely possible to make a 7-hour trip to Grandma's a positive experience. It comes down to 4 steps. 1. Plan. Don't wing it. 2. Research. Use the resources we've provided to help you know what's up ahead. 3. Pick the loadout packs. The Instant Kit, the Spread, and hardware kits are game changers. 4. Execute. Get in, get fed, get rested, and get back on the road. As Dwight D. Eisenhower said, plans are worthless, but planning is everything.